Thank you so much for joining us tonight at our ARPA virtual event. I'm honored to be joined by my colleague and County Board member, Paul Frank, who also serves as the chair of our Financial Administrative Committee, as well as being the chair of the board's special committee on ARPA. Also presenting tonight will be Matt Myers, our Lake County's Assistant County Administrator. So tonight you will be hearing the word ARPA a lot, or the acronym rather, and this stands for the American Rescue Plan Act. This federal legislation is providing Lake County with an historic opportunity to invest more than $135 million in federal funds into programs and projects that support our recovery and our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The county board has worked really hard, along with our outstanding staff, to allocate portions of this funding to address immediate needs from the pandemic, such as food distribution and housing. However, we realize we do not have all the answers, and we really want to hear from you to find out what additional needs exist and to ask for your help in prioritizing those needs and your ideas on how we can help people. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is really to hear from you. So tonight we're going to share some information and take questions and comments through the chat. But before I begin, I do want to turn it over to Paul Frank, who's going to give us a summary of what Lake County has accomplished so far with those federal funds. And then Matt will give us more information about ARPA and what we're working on today. Thanks so much. Paul, take it away.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Good evening. My name is Paul Frank, Lake County Board Member for District 11, which includes Highland Park, Highwood, and a small portion of Deerfield. And so over the last 2 years, as Sandy said, our county has received significant resources from the federal government as we work to respond to the COVID-19 public health emergency. In 2020, we received over $121 million of federal funding through the CARES Act to help us respond to the pandemic. Our county board created a special committee which was charged with working with our county administration professionals to determine the best methods of distributing those funds to the people who are most in need, communities and organizations, to ensure that services were uninterrupted and people were cared for. I did have the privilege of serving as the chair of that special committee, and it's one of the reasons why you're hearing from me tonight on this topic. In less than a year, we did provide more than $8.1 million to community members. We provided over 500,000 meals to families that were struggling with access to food, and as well as shelter to those in need of housing assistance. We provided over $16 million to 1,200 small businesses across the county. 31% of those small businesses were minority owned, and 46% of those were women-owned businesses. Over $36.5 million was provided to local governments. This included our municipalities, school districts, park districts, libraries, townships, and fire districts. $17 million was invested in the county health department to allow for the purchase of items such as vaccine distribution software, vaccine freezers, refrigerators, personal protective equipment, and staffing for our call center. $39 million was invested in our county-wide essential services. This was used for essential infrastructure projects to allow for greater social distancing at our county facilities, investments in our courts to enhance and allow for virtual participation in court proceedings, and investments in our coroner's office with new technologies and equipment to improve safety in the workspace for our coroner's department. This is a small, very quick summary of what we accomplished using CARES Act funds. After CARES Act, the county did receive $37 million in additional emergency rental assistance funds. And we have been distributing those funds with the help of numerous partners across the county. And this has supported over 3,500 families. The success of the rental assistance program is due in a big part to our partners, and we want to thank them all for their work in this effort. I'm going to now pass it over to Matt Myers, Assistant County Administrator, who will speak about the next round of funding that our county has received, the ARPA funding, and he'll talk about what it is, how it can be used, and the purpose of our conversation tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening. As stated already, my name is Matt Myers. I'm an Assistant County Administrator with Lake County. I have been working very closely with all the federal funds that the county has received over the last number of years, and worked pretty close with the U.S. Treasury in making sure that we're using the funds appropriately. As you just heard, the county has received funding from numerous sources since the very start of the pandemic. We started receiving these additional funds that we're talking about tonight in 2021 with the passage of the American Rescue Plan Act. In the form of what they're called specifically is state and local fiscal recovery funds. We refer to them as Arpa funds. These funds were provided to all counties and municipalities across the nation, and are governed by and guided by rules that are given to us by the U.S. Treasury. To date, we have received $136 million of these funds. As listed on the U.S. Treasury, the funds provide resources and are meant to provide resources to fight the pandemic and support families and businesses struggling with its public health and economic impacts, maintain vital public services, and build a strong, resilient, and equitable recovery by making investments that support long-term growth and opportunity. There are specific categories that the Treasury gives us in which we are to apply the funds. These are the eligibility categories. They're called the expenditure categories by the Treasury. There's 80 different categories that are eligible uses that fall within these kind of buckets. We have a number of folks with us on our end that are tasked and are responsible for these particular buckets of funds and eligible in these eligible funding categories. And all of these people have been working very hard since the start of the pandemic on their projects and programs that they put forward and have been managing, that were created using these federal funds that we have received. The categories I have up here on the slide today are related to kind of the larger ones are public health, negative economic impacts, and infrastructure. And then there are kind of subcategories within those. Similar to how we managed our previous federal funds, such as the CARES funds, a special committee has been created that's specific to these ARPA funds. And some investments have already been allocated and are proceeding with being implemented as we continue to respond to the pandemic. I have some examples up there tonight, such as the purchase of a vaccination distribution software, the establishment of a COVID-19 call center, supporting the rental assistance programs that we've had available since the start of the pandemic, creating and preserving affordable housing throughout the county, continuing to provide food and shelter to those in need, construction of a regional 911 emergency operations center, updating and improving Lake County's wastewater and water systems, and increasing our workforce programs on work-based training. These are just a couple examples of initiatives and programs that we're already implementing. So tonight, and what we have been doing and what we will be continuing to do for the next about a couple weeks, half a month maybe. We have had one in-person session thus far in Waukegan last week, and we will be having one additional on August 10th next month in Round Lake. What we're looking for is community input on the needs that you are seeing as community members and community organizations, and input on what and how should be prioritized as we recover from the pandemic. We're looking for ideas for meeting those identified needs, and we'll talk about that in a second. We have had three options of providing feedback and input that we're looking for. We have a survey that's been available for a couple of weeks now, and will be available until the end of our public engagement period, which will basically end after the August 10th public meeting. The survey it helps us give us that prioritization, but there's also an opportunity to provide specific input on a particular area, or just general information and feedback on what you're seeing as a need in your community. I urge everyone obviously to take the survey. We'll put a link tonight in the chat so that you can fill that out if you haven't already, and we do appreciate your feedback and input. At the in-person events, we also have comment cards. So we had those available in Waukegan. We'll have those available again. And certainly at those events, there's opportunities to talk to team members. A lot of the individuals that are on the call tonight are ones that were there in Waukegan and will be there on August 10th. to talk about what we're doing, what we have in place, and to talk to us about what other needs or things that we're missing. So just to talk briefly on next steps, as I stated, we have one more in-person meeting on August 10th in Round Lake, and we'll make sure we get that information out if you had not received it. But after we complete these meetings, we'll be closing the survey, and then we're going to compile everything that we've received thus far through the various means of communication, whether it's through the survey, the comment cards, or the discussions that we've had. And then we're going to present this data, this compiled information, to the special committee, and shortly thereafter, we're going to open a window in which we're going to solicit fleshed out programs and projects from external Lake County organizations. So that's community organizations and local units of government. And then the requests are going to be, the requests that we receive are going to be reviewed against specific prioritized criteria that's based on the feedback and input that we're getting through this process. And they will be scored and weighted, and then they're going to be presented to the ARPA Special Committee again for possible funding with some of our remaining ARPA funds. And more information is to come on this as we continue to work on it, and as we continue to get information and feedback from yourself. And that concludes the presentation portion. Alex, I will turn it back to you.
So we've already gotten some good questions and input, so we're happy to try to answer questions best we can and or the input. So if we might read off some of that input too that we've gotten in the chat. I don't know how exactly this applies. So I know you went over categories and things like that, Matt, but the first question we got was, how can this help families with special needs? So basically, how can this help special needs families? Now, I don't know if it's possible, or maybe that's just an input kind of thing that we kind of take into account, but is there anything we can talk about on that?
Yeah, as I said, there's 80 different categories and eligible criteria. I think what I would want, and I will take that as input, the statement that was made, but what I would want is, one, are there programs that we could fund that would help support special needs families or those with special needs and what do they need as we recover from the pandemic? What impacts have they had, and what kind of programs can we put forward that could be funded?
Perfect, thank you. We had someone saying COVID-19 was handled well in Lake County. Well, I'm sure our health department especially would appreciate that comment, so thank you for that. We had someone thanking us for this opportunity tonight. Well, thank you for being here. We got another question. Someone's asking, is investment in solar power infrastructure a consideration?
I will say that we have looked into that quite a bit from an infrastructure standpoint. There's not a lot of information in the guidance. What the U.S. Treasury calls it is the final rule that they have released. And we haven't found a lot of information in there related to the construction of solar power as a direct eligible use of ARPA dollars at this time.
I think, Matt, what we should add that investment in solar and alternative energy has been a priority for the board, and we have made investments in that direction with our county budget, aside from these ARPA funds.
That's correct, Paul. We actually have 3 construction projects moving ahead on Lake County facilities currently, solar installations, and we're working on about 7 additional. But that's with county dollars. That's, as Paul stated, that's not with ARPA dollars.
So we had another question about 80 categories. Yes, 80. Yeah, lots of categories under consideration for sure. And is that information available on the website? We do have like the larger buckets. I'll put our website out there so you can kind of read more about the different types of categories and kind of all the ins and outs there. So I'll put that in the chat here shortly. And the input was there. They would like to target the need of childcare. So they mentioned that as input. Someone mentioned that they would love to see assistance for communities with special service taxes. Someone said, will the survey results be published / communicated? I think that's a Matt question.
Yeah, well, I think at this point, what we know we're going to do is come up with a compiled summary of the survey results, and that will certainly be presented at a future ARPA special committee meeting.
Okay, next question. Can the funds be used to rehab vacant and underused buildings to develop childcare facilities and or staffing those centers?
Childcare is a consideration. It's something that we're already looking at. There are a number of different ways to use the funds to support childcare throughout Lake County. So I'd love to hear any additional information that we can get or any feedback on what they're seeing from a needs standpoint.
Sweet.
Can I just interject there? I know we've been looking at childcare. It is something that our county board members have recognized as being an issue. And we know it in our own lives. So is there anybody, I know there's a few people on staff that have been working on that. I'm just wondering if there's any best practices that we could share or where we are or who's kind of managing that.
And that Cassandra Hiller, Assistant County Administrator.
Yes, that would be me. Thank you. So I have been looking at the childcare topic. There are a lot of challenges to addressing childcare, which we all are very aware of, right? There's not enough of it. It's expensive. It's not always equally distributed across the county. We have been working with the YWCA of Lake County, as well as the Lake County Health Department and Community Development Department and other regional partners to look at what are potential solutions to try to help increase capacity across the county. We have received a proposal from the YWCA to look at trying to do a staffing model to help fill vacancies. So that's what we've gotten so far to help with childcare. So every time there's a vacancy in a childcare center, that then creates a classroom shortage, right? So you can't have as many children in that center. So the staffing model is the proposal is to try to help fill those vacancies so we can have full capacity childcare centers to create more capacity across the county. That's the first thing we've gotten so far. There are other things that we're looking at as well, not as well thought through yet. One of those could be potentially opening a center, but where would that best be situated and who would run that? What would that cost be? So definitely we would take feedback on all types of things like that. So thank you.
And if I may, just to say thank you, Cassandra, for your hard work on this. We do have some foundations who are very interested in this. They recognize that in order to get people back into the workforce, particularly women, we really need to provide childcare for them. And Cassandra's really done an outstanding job in reaching out and hearing what other communities are doing, what other areas, what kind of things that they're finding and what are they working on. So we do recognize that it is a pressing need. It's a pressing need because it's a very difficult problem. So just want to say thanks to Cassandra and for the others who are working on that. And thank you for the person who brought that forward. We agree that it's something that is very important for us here in Lake County. So thank you.
All right, next question. And first of all, I just want to mention, I was a little bit, I always get nervous when we do these events in terms of like, will people actually provide, type in the chat, but you guys are doing an outstanding job. So thank you. Like I got a lot to read here, which is awesome. So best case scenario. So next one, and this is a rare question for me. Will the recording of this meeting get sent out? Absolutely. This is a good, I feel like a good educational opportunity for those that might not be as familiar with the American Rescue Plan Act. I'm sure some of you might want to review it and take a look at it again if you have any lingering questions. So yes, this will definitely be sent out. We'll also put it on our website and other places too. So thank you for that. Next, we got another question. Is Lake County doing any benchmarking to see what other communities are doing?
Absolutely. We certainly have contacts with our Collier County colleagues and to talk to these counties about what they are working on. And we have a good resource in the National Association of Counties and the information that they have published, and they are constantly pinging communities and counties throughout the nation to get ideas and to get a summary and get summaries of what these other counties are doing. And we have access to their databases to see what types of programs are being implemented. So we are certainly benchmarking.
Next question. I don't really get it, but maybe it matters someone else does. Can you provide more detail or insight into the external Lake County organization? Okay, you get that. All right,
yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I think what that individual is referring to is the statement that I made on offering this request process to the external organizations. And we did put forth a program idea to the special committee in which we state that when what we're referring to is a solicitation process to these external organizations, the conditions would be service has to be provided in Lake County, not non-for-profits or not-for-profits or nonprofits, or a local unit of government other than a municipality, because municipalities received ARPA funds themselves. So that is what I mean by external Lake County organizations. I mean external from Lake County government.
Thank you. Next question, if people have a need and call 211, do these needs get tabulated to identify needs for help in the categories themselves?
And for that question, I'd ask Brenda O'Connell if she's able to answer that one, who's our Community Development Administrator.
Yes, I will post a link in the chat of 211 counts. That's a real-time tabulation of the needs for our 211 that gets updated daily, and you can sort it by need type and by zip code, and you can really look at the need about why people are calling 211 in a lot of different ways. It's a really great resource that we have. And the top needs have been true since the beginning of since the launch of our 211, that all of those needs have been related to housing, whether it's rental assistance, utilities, or homeless related needs. Another top need is food. So I'll post a link in the chat right now.
All right, and while we have you, Brenda, we did have another question, and it might be Brenda or someone else. Is the SNAP program funded this way, and how is food help distributed?
Yeah, I can answer that as well. SNAP is an entitlement program. If you qualify, SNAP is the supplemental food assistance program. And if you qualify for SNAP, that's food stamps, you get food stamps. So that's a separate funding source that's done through the state DHS offices. Locally, there's one in Waukegan. In addition to that, so actually food stamps is not quite enough to really sustain a person or a family. Beyond that, the food assistance that was provided through the pandemic was done in a couple different ways. The funding flowed through the Northern Illinois Food Bank because the food bank system is able to buy food in bulk and or source food in big ways. The Northern Illinois Food Bank serves Lake County and even beyond. And they were distributing food at pop-up events, distribution events above and beyond what's normally done, as well as sourcing the local food bank network. So if there's a food bank at your church or a food bank in local communities, they're able to get food through the food bank at for free because of the funding that we provided. So in Lake County, that was able to be distributed through food banks and also pop-up events. So once upon a time, there were pop-up events at Great America. You may remember big places like that. Now it's more focused on places within communities where they're able to do large-scale food distribution.
All right, we got a couple more input, which is awesome. Someone mentioned like employment services, internships for prospective permanent employees. Awesome, thank you for that input. Someone had a comment on rental assistance is the more inclusive housing assistance, and they talked about many people struggle to meet requirements for apartments or mortgages, such as college students and low-income students. So thank you for that. Here's another question. Is there a plan to provide additional housing for the homeless?
I'll let Brenda answer that question as well.
I can pop up and talk about that. So housing for the homeless. So currently there are several affordable housing projects that are approved. And those would be available to people. Those are available to people who below a certain income. So that is specifically targeted on low and moderate income populations. And then in addition, I feel like I should pivot a little bit and talk about the other federal funds that we received through the pandemic. There's been a large expansion of rental assistance options, some of which are for people who are literally homeless. So whether it's through the larger Treasury rental assistance program that we've run, which is not ARPA funded, but was, well, not this pot of money, but was funded and the county has been running, or if it is through some of the other homeless dollars that we've seen a large expansion on the number of rental assistance slots. So I would say we're trying to tackle it from both ends, build more housing so that there's supply, and then provide rental assistance so that people can also choose units throughout the community.
All right, the next one is basically a comment. They mentioned this is an incredible organizational undertaking. My input is the county would consider a capacity building program for nonprofits, perhaps with operating budgets less than $1 million that were hard hit during the pandemics. So thank you for that input. I think we have a question here. Can funds be used to create a more robust food system and acquisition of land to support local growing of food and distribution? Not sure if that's a question or input, but we did get that there. We got another question, and I don't know if you addressed this already, Brenda. If you want to chime in, go for it. They ask, how extensive is homelessness? What are we doing, and what more can we do?
That is a great question. So in my role at the county, we work a lot with our robust service providers in Lake County. And one of the things that happened during the pandemic because of COVID protocols was that congregate sheltering was not recommended by the CDC because having a bunch of people together was not recommended. So the homeless providers, including our domestic violence providers, as well as homeless providers, pivoted to also provide shelter in hotels. At the same time, because of the housing market and the eviction moratorium, we saw that, sorry, I was having a camera problem. We saw that there were fewer apartments to move into. So we did see that homelessness has increased at any point in time. We see that we have more people in shelter than we did prior to the pandemic. People are staying slightly longer than they did prior to the pandemic, but there has not been a significant increase in the overall numbers of people experiencing homelessness. And as the housing market has become a little bit more fluid, we've seen the number of people exiting homelessness to housing continue to tick up. So what more can we do? We have some known gaps, and one of those is looking at how can we have a shelter system that has some site-based shelter. If that was identified in a gaps analysis prior to the pandemic, and that does have some funding allocated to it through the ARPA dollars. But shelter isn't a solution to homelessness. Housing really is. So we need to also continue to look at how do we expand housing affordability through building of more units and creating subsidies that allow people to have that bridge to independence so that they can live in the market, in market rate housing.
All right. The next one is more of a comment to use buildings for something as well for special needs. So thank you for that. Someone mentioned everyone is looking for reliable long-term employees. Appreciate that. Here's more of a question. What are we doing for mental health? Is that an area we can enhance?
Yep. And I'd like to introduce Larry Mackey of our health department.
Sure. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, actually, we were able to use some of the funds, some of the ARPA funds already to fund some counselors in our Children's Advocacy Center. So that's been helpful. The thing that we're looking for in behavioral health is sustainability. And so we've had some other funding sources where we can build long-term programs in behavioral health, because it's one thing to get short-term funding to be able to build a building or something, but behavioral health services are very people intensive. So we need to have sustainability there. So another problem that we're facing is just staffing, trying to staff some of these programs as well. So, but that is definitely something that we've looked at, and we've been able to use some of these funds for that already.
All right. Thank you for that. Next is a question. Is there consideration using these funds to bolster the funding of our emergency management agency besides the construction of the new EOC, which is the Emergency Operations Center. That's an abbreviation.
So I guess I would like a little bit more information as to what is there a specific need or thought as to what needs to be bolstered with respect to our emergency management response? But I mean, we'll certainly take that as input. I'm sure there's options as it relates to response to future pandemic. But right now, the prioritization of the county is the construction of the facility. But I would love to hear additional thoughts as to what else is needed or ideas as to what could be done.
Thank you. Here's a question, and I'll read it. How does the committee propose to promote involvement from the public beyond, the usual have the public help build public engagement? How do we help the public realize that their input is truly of major impact in terms of literally the millions of dollars that are a part of ARPA?
So I think we're talking about public engagement, and that's what we're trying to do here. And are there thoughts as to what else could potentially be done outside of the two meetings? What other ways can we get information out to the communities? I think as what we would want to know, based on all of the different ways that we've tried and the ways that we have done with respect to social media, website, emails, newsletters, blasts, and things like that. But we are having the two in-person public engagements, and we are here tonight as well, trying to get this information and certainly the survey.
Yeah, Matt, let me just add that
Sure.
that's the exact question that the board members and the committee members wanted us to address. We had made a lot of decisions about investing in key priorities based on conversations with the board that we had heard from our local government partners, from our community service partners. Those are all the sort of normal channels of communication. And we had made a lot of investments based on input from those folks. But the committee and the board wanted us to take a step back before we make decisions about the rest of these funds. And that's exactly what this process is for. So we have the survey that you've referenced, Matt. We've had really high engagement in the online survey. This is the second of 3, or are we doing 4? I can't remember how many other meetings we have. And so, yeah, we are making efforts to try and hear from other stakeholders that are sort of outside the normal loop of communication with the county.
All right. We got a comment or input just saying that they may want to, provide a proposal when proposal requested regarding childcare. So, hey, thank you for that. We'll be looking forward to talking with you. Mentioned on special needs. Hey, thank you. That's a great comment there. Let's mention about, so in addition to high costs for childcare and healthcare, there's also high energy costs. Is there any way to relieve the household burden for residents through ARPA energy costs?
And I'll take a look and see what there is in ARPA related to supporting high energy costs for residents. I know that we have at Lake County, we have a commercial property assessed clean energy program that you could apply for, but it's for commercial only. It's not for residential. There is a residential program that's available in other states in the United States. However, it's not statutorily available in the state of Illinois, but it's something that we have been trying to talk to our state legislators on for the last number of years. But there is a program for the commercial property assessed clean energy, in which commercial businesses can reach out to a vendor that we have worked with, and with a project idea that meets specific energy saving criteria, and it would be supported with funding through this specific PACE program, and you would pay off the loan with an assessment on your property over a specific number of years. And Alex, I'll see if I can get the link to that program, which I think is on our website, and make sure I post that in the chat here. But again, that's only for commercial businesses.
Sweet, thanks, Matt. So we got someone mentioning that township food pantries have been hit harder than usual. So to consider this, and especially the word baby formula is put in there. So thank you for that. Are there any pedestrian or bicycle projects that could be covered by this?
And it's a good one. And it is a common question. Transportation projects are not included in any form as an eligible use of ARPA funds. So the infrastructure eligibility in ARPA funds is related to water, so clean drinking water, and projects related to making clean drinking water. And then sewer sanitary projects, so improvements to wastewater treatment plants and things like that, and other sewer type projects, stormwater related projects, so support for the creation of stormwater management projects and flooding relief projects. And there's some eligibility for broadband creation, but transportation was left out. I think that was based somewhat on the other infrastructure bills that had passed federally and some of the transportation funding that will be pushed out to states and counties in future years. So pedestrian and bicycle path projects are not covered.
We got a comment on medical, dental, vision, support for children and elderly. Thank you for that input. Someone mentioned, are there any funds, are any of these funds being used by the county, nonprofits, or third parties to purchase foreclosed homes in the county to be used to house people in need of shelter?
Brenda, if she can take that. I don't think that we're purchasing foreclosed homes, unless I'm mistaken.
And not specifically foreclosed homes, but there are the affordable housing projects that are currently funded. There's an array of different models, from senior multifamily housing to single family homes that will be used as rentals. So that is more in line with that idea. But if that's the kind of thing you think we should do more of course, continue to provide your input, and what type, what makes sense in your community. We want to hear.
And I think we got another question regarding rental assistance. You know, will the county be looking for grant money, not-for-profit agencies to facilitate? Oh wait, I read this wrong. Let me read this again. I'm sorry. Will the county be looking to sub-grant money to small not-for-profit agencies to facilitate, or will the grant money continue to be facilitated through a program like FARA? And when they mentioned FARA, that's the Federal Emergency Rental Assistance Program.
So I'm the rental assistance person. The FARA program is run entirely through nonprofits and townships. So the county runs sort of the centralized communication with the Treasury, reporting, administration of the grant, helping with the data quality, doing a lot of technical assistance with our partners. But I really do think that the magic of that program and the ability to reach communities, especially those hardest hit by the pandemic, has been our partnerships with the community partners, places such as Mano a Mano, YWCA, Catholic Charities, Community Partners for Affordable Housing, and many others. We had 15 partners in different capacities, including many townships. So we have been working very closely with our community partners to run some of these programs.
Next question, can any of the funds be used to locate and help different police-related agencies to locate and hire both experienced and trainee officers?
That's one I'll have to check on, as there is some kind of government employee retention eligibility, but I can't remember if it's specific to law enforcement or if it's specific to public health.
We just had, I think it's more of a question, and then I think it's more of input, but talking about, you know, funds used to engage Lake County professional PR and professional firms to help grow awareness of this funding. So thank you, and they went on a couple more things like that. So thank you for that. So someone's asking, where are those rental homes where is rental homes in affordable housing that Brenda was talking about located? Is there a list on the county website, or where can they get more information on that?
Good question. So if the question is, how do I locate more affordable housing resources in the community? There isn't a one centralized place for that. If the question is, what are the addresses of the specific homes that are being acquired with ARPA funds? We do list the communities, although not the specific addresses. Let me post that. Let me post that in the chat. Pull that down. I believe that's posted on the website, but I'll find where it is. Good resources for finding affordable housing are Catholic Charities, as well as our housing authorities. In Lake County, we have 3 housing authorities: Lake County Housing Authority, Waukegan Housing Authority, and North Chicago Housing Authority.
Okay. I think someone's asking, and maybe this is more input too, assistance for homeowners who are on the income borderline, exemption consideration, and those with dependents. Someone mentioned ARPA funds could be used to assist residents on down payments and home rehab for those are first time home buyers. Someone just asking, they were a resident of Cook County. How do they get assistance for their household and business?
I think I think they referenced that they're not located in Lake County. I would contact your local municipality or the county in which you reside. I think I would start first with your local municipality to see what programs they may have available that they may have created with the use of their ARPA dollars.
I apologize for that. Yeah, I think they mentioned they're in Palatine. So yeah, I would reach out to the city there. I think Sandy,
and if I may, and Matt, thank you so much for bringing that up. And just so that the public is aware, these ARPA dollars didn't just come to the county, they also went out to those municipalities. And so sort of what we are doing here in the county is trying to decide, hey, what's the best use of our dollars? The municipalities are doing the same thing. They got a variety of dollars. I think that's based on population. Is that right, Matt?
Yes.
So potentially these conversations could be occurring across the state, across the country. So just in case people weren't aware of that, these ARPA dollars went to all those different government agencies. So thank you.
Someone mentioned input for the COVID-19 pandemic response, plan, strategy, capacity, hospital beds, and staffing within Northern Lake County. Thank you for that input. Someone asked, can you discuss any components of community violence prevention or addressing poverty in the county?
So unfortunately, we don't have anybody on from our state attorney's office tonight, but they have 2, a violence prevention program and I think it's a gun violence prevention program that they have created with the use of ARPA dollars and they're already proceeding with establishing, but I don't have any details that can be provided specific tonight.
And if I might add, the state's attorney and the sheriff were hoping to be here tonight, but due to the mass killing in Highland Park, they've certainly been very busy in responding to that emergency. So they had planned to be here, but of course, helping people work through that is certainly took precedence. So thank you for that question.
We got a comment on assistance for landlords. So thank you for submitting that. We got another comment. Employers have been, struggling with the lack of qualified employees lately. Is it possible to use some of these funds to help employers work with CLC or set up trainings? Do we have something in Lake County like this right now?
And if Jennifer Serino is available, she can talk about some of the things that I know that her and her team are already working on.
I am here, Matt. Thank you. Jennifer Serino, Director of Workforce Development. So Workforce Development, the operator of the Job Center in Lake County, this is what we do. We work specifically with the unemployed and underemployed, helping them gain the right skills to meet the demands of the jobs posted of the industry in Lake County. We work closely with 14 different partners, community agencies, as well as state agencies, as well as CLC. in making sure that the skills individuals are gaining through training programs meet the demands of employers. Using ARPA dollars, we will be implementing and expanding a work-based learning program for small businesses to help individuals learn on the job as they're earning a salary, and then help connect them to the right long-term employment that has a family sustaining wage tied to it.
All right, thank you. We had a comment, it's a good one. Gurney has neighborhood meetings, other communities may have them too. Would be good to market the survey via those local community channels. Hey, that's great input. And we have more than 1,000 survey responses already, which is great, but hey, we want more, right? And so the survey is going to be open for some time still. So we'll absolutely look into that. And then also too, we're going to post a survey link here in the chat here later. And so if you want to share it with your friends and family, get them to take the survey too, more than welcome, the more the merrier to collect their input. We're trying to get as many people as we can. So we thank you for that. So great feedback there. Can any of the funds be used to increase the number of communities with CERT teams and current teams level of training? They were integral to the county's COVID response and immediate aid in Highland Park.
This is good. I think this was the response to that my request to get a little bit more information on some of the emergency management response. So we will take that input. Thank you.
All right. So I don't know if we have a direct answer to this question, but maybe someone, maybe Austin from Public Works. So the question is about are there any plans to remove fluoride from our drinking water? And I know Lake County Public Works is a little different than villages and others that oversee water, but anything on that, or just any information that you can provide on what Lake County is doing about water quality and how ARPA kind of ties into that?
Oh, that's a good question as far as the fluoride concentration in drinking water is concerned, and I do understand the concern. But all public drinking water systems are regulated by the state, and as such, they have to include some concentration of fluoride in the drinking water. So to address that, it certainly is a regulatory issue, and we will have to follow up with the state to address that. But as a public drinking water system, we certainly will have to continue to dose our drinking water with a minimum amount of fluoride.
Thank you. Can any of these, so we do sometimes get this question. So can any of these funds be used to help people on fixed low income to pay their property taxes?
We cannot use the funds for direct payment of property taxes or to offset tax, any kind of tax increase or anything like that directly. But obviously with some of the larger infrastructure projects that we're doing, some of them we would have had to potentially do anyways. There's a kind of an indirect potential for property tax relief. However, it's not something that's going to be anything immediate, but we can't directly offset property taxes, no.
Are these funds available to HOAs to help secure neighborhoods from thefts and break-ins that have gotten worse, like to purchase cameras or other public safety items?
Yeah, that's an interesting comment. We will certainly take that as input. I don't have an answer right now as to if that's a possibility or not.
Okay. Someone's asking, can we get an archive of the webinar? Yeah, absolutely. So we will post the recording on our website. We'll send out an e-blast with it too. And so we will definitely get that info out so everyone could either watch it again and things like that too. So if I don't have any, and I apologize if I missed a couple questions or comments there, we got a lot that we've been going through. But if for whatever reason I missed it, by all means, I'm going to put in, or we'll put in an email address, communications@lakecountyl.gov. If you have any questions we missed or input or anything like that, you're more than welcome. Just shoot us an email, and we got a couple more opportunities, or we have one more opportunity to actually meet with us in person too. So I'm going to kick it over. We're nearing the 1 hour mark. So I'm going to kick it over to Chair Hart to maybe close us out and mention our upcoming opportunity as well.
Thank you. I was just seeing that there was one question, and I would love it if maybe we could ask this one or answer this one rather. It says, I think ARPA funds could be used to assist residents with down payments and home rehabs who are first-time home buyers. This could be focused on communities with lower home ownership rates and could help families build equity, considering rent costs more than a mortgage in many instances, and it's hard to save for a down payment. So I know this is a question that perhaps Brenda could answer. So didn't mean to take over your task there, Alex, but I had just seen that one and I thought it was something that maybe she could answer for us.
You know, people have been hearing my voice a lot and me reading a lot. So thank you for the assist there. Appreciate it.
This is a great suggestion. ARPA dollars haven't been allocated in this way, but some of the other federal funds that community development works with fund the first-time homebuyer program through Community Partners for Affordable Housing, where they assist low and moderate income homebuyers in first-time home ownership, as well as what we call owner-occupied rehab. So that's helping provide people with lower incomes some money to help keep their home in good repair, so they can continue to live there and we can continue to improve the quality. Both of those programs are at a point where they're fully funded, but you know, it's helpful to hear the feedback that is a good strategy for our communities. I think also because homeownership builds assets and wealth, it can be a really good investment. So thanks for that comment.
Thank you. And thank you for speaking to that one. And I apologize if I missed this question, but I'm intrigued by it as well. So if this was answered already, forgive me. But one of the questions was, can funds be used to create a more robust food system and acquisition of land to support local growing of food and distribution? So I apologize if somebody's asked that already.
Chair Hart, we did review that question briefly with Brenda.
Okay, all right, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know somebody was just putting in that survey response in the chat. So thank you very much. And as Alex said, we are getting close to the 7 o'clock hour. So I really want to thank all of you for being here tonight, members of the public. I know there's several people from nonprofits who are joining us tonight. I especially want to thank our staff who've been working all day and took time out of their day to be here tonight so they can really hear firsthand from you about what your ideas and thoughts are about what could really make a difference in our community. And they can also kind of answer your questions and speak more about maybe some of the things that we're already doing and maybe where there's an opportunity where we can do more. So thank you so much to our outstanding staff, and thank you to my colleague Paul Frank for being here too. So really this ARPA funding, you know, designed to help us get through the pandemic, it's really a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it is so critically important that we are going to undertake those projects and initiatives that are going to positively impact the quality of life for the people of Lake County and create an environment where businesses can thrive for decades to come, right? It doesn't make sense for us to invest in a program that when we're done investing in it is just going to fall away. So we really want to have something that's going to be sustainable and that's going to make real change throughout Lake County. So it's just so important that we hear from you about your ideas where we can make those differences and how we invest. And we are keeping track of the chat and all of the questions and ideas that are submitted. As Alex said, please do share the survey with your friends and family because we really want to hear from as many Lake County residents as possible. So thank you so much for being a part of building the future of Lake County with us. And we really look forward to our next event, which will be in person in Round Lake on August 10th. So thank you very much. And Alex, great job tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you.